And speaking of teaching excellence, it is now my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Megan Gibbons, Professor of Biology. Dr. Gibbons was last year's recipient of the Outstanding Educator Year Award and therefore serves as our commencement speaker this year. She's an amazing colleague who has been a member of the BSc faculty since 2001. Please join me in welcoming her to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Caskey. Hi, everybody. Gonna need those. I want to welcome you all, family, friends, faculty, graduates. We finally made it. I want to make sure I acknowledge those of you who traveled to come here to celebrate with these students. I know this isn't what we all expected, but I'm so happy that we are able to celebrate together. It wasn't always clear that we'd be able to. So thank you. Before I really get started, I want to give a small caveat to the audience to prepare you. I have no intention of dazzling anyone with intellectual musings or obscure quotes from poets or philosophers. That's just not who I am. I'm honestly not sure how I earned the honor of being BSC's Outstanding Educator of the Year last year, the distinction that has led me to this podium. I love these students. I love teaching them, and I want the best for them. But I don't think that makes me any different from any other BSc professor. I really have the most amazing and brilliant set of colleagues. So it really is an honor to have received that distinction and to be talking to all of you today. But I think it's only fair that from this point, I focus my attention on the graduating seniors in front of me. So it's going to be a little less formal than if you were listening to a UN ambassador, a former Secretary of State, or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So some of this might be kind of like if you had a class with me, but with fewer tangents and fewer cuss words, maybe. I found out I was giving this commencement speech during last year's graduation. So that means I've spent a year trying to figure out what I was gonna say. First, I tried to remember any words of wisdom from the commencement speaker at my own graduation at Emory University in 1993. Seemed like a great place to start. Well, I couldn't even remember who the speaker was. Do you wanna know what I do remember about my graduation? I remember sitting outside in a great big field and it was hot. I mean, really, really hot. And I remember trying really hard not to puke or to pass out because I was so hungover from the party we had the night before. And it felt like it lasted forever. That's what I remember about my graduation. And I don't remember a word that the speaker said. I actually had to go back and look up who the speaker was for my commencement. It was Donald Raymond Keough, former president and chief operating officer of the Coca-Cola Company. And I remembered nothing. So if you guys remember nothing from this speech, then I've done just as well as the president of Coca-Cola. And if you remember anything at all from this speech, well, then I've done better. So I abandoned that strategy, but over the passing months, I felt like I was developing a pretty decent talk, not earth-shattering, but solid. Share some words of wisdom like many others have before me about how to find your path in the world, how BSc has prepared you for what's next, and to convince you that you are all ready to embark on your next journey. And while I was doing this, you all were experiencing all the stress and excitement of your senior year, studying, working on papers, completing senior projects, training and competing if you're an athlete, getting ready for spring break, and celebrating the last semester of your college career. What a great semester that is, the final semester of your senior year. And then came COVID-19, and on March 13th, the shit hit the fan. If you've been in one of my classes, you knew that was coming. And we all left campus that Friday, not having any idea that that would be our last time all together on campus forever. Y'all, the last semester of your senior year got canceled. No SoCo, no more hanging with friends on campus, No more chatting with Miss Teresa in the C-store or Miss Johnny in the CAF, or any of the amazing staff members that made BSC feel like home. No senior celebrations for fraternities or sororities. No chance to say goodbye to professors. No ringing the bell on the last day of classes. No laid-back week after finals when all the seniors are on campus just hanging out together, with the end of that week culminating in the capping ceremony and commencement. For spring athletes, no conference championships or national championships. That realization, I've already swum my last race or played my last game of my college career, and I didn't even know it. I was not prepared. God, you guys, it really, really sucks. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. It happened to you and to every other graduating senior across the country. You are the only people alive who have ever experienced this. And I'm like, holy shit, I have to give the commencement speech to these students. How the hell am I going to do that? Maybe there won't be a commencement at all, and I won't have to give a speech. But like I said, I'm actually glad we're able to do this, because maybe it can provide some closure. It's not what any of us imagined, but it's something. So you're beginning your adult lives in a totally different world than it was just a few short months ago. Probably a lot of your plans and opportunities have changed, or maybe, like your last semester, they just disappeared. My original plan, the typical advice that someone would give a graduating class, seemed hollow. I mean, I literally have no idea what you guys are up against. We're in the middle of a crippling pandemic with a teetering economy, worldwide protests, violence, and oppression, and our country is more politically divided than I have ever seen it. Plus, don't forget climate change. The world is really screwed up right now. But you know what? You need to keep going, keep working, keep challenging yourself to make sense of it all and to find your place in this chaos. You have the tools to make this work. Maybe it will take longer to reach your goals. Maybe you don't get your dream job right away because the world we used to know is taking a pause. Or maybe it will never really be the same. But maybe this pause, this chaos, will change how you see yourself in the world, how you can adjust your goals to meet our new reality. So here are a couple of rules that I used to figure out how to handle my first few years after college. They were really, really hard. Not what you're up against. Very different from what you're up against, but hopefully there's something useful in here for you. First of all, I should tell you that I was a psychology major with no idea what I wanted to do with my life when I graduated from Emory. I liked biology too, so I had taken some of those courses, but I didn't know where I was going with them. While I figured out what I wanted to do with my life, I really wanted to support myself financially. I didn't want to go back home, and I figured my parents paying for my college was enough. This leads me to my first rule. It's sort of a combo rule. Be humble. Don't be too proud to do the things necessary to accomplish your goals. And while you're doing that, keep an open mind, work hard, and have a positive attitude at whatever it is you're doing. A positive attitude and a strong work ethic can go a really long way. So I took a job as a lifeguard, an assistant swim coach for a summer team, and as a hostess at an Outback Steakhouse. I even bussed tables when they needed someone to do that. Yep, I did that with an $80,000 degree from Emory University. I didn't plan on either of those being my career path, but doing them allowed me to support myself while I tried to find my passion. That's the second rule. Search for your passion. Try lots of things, and don't always take the easiest path. Abandon the paths that don't lead you to your passion. Volunteer, do internships, take part-time jobs that help you find your passion. I took on several different small jobs in the couple years after college. None of them paid well enough to cover anything, but they helped me interact with different types of careers. I took one job working at a nature preserve, another job as a research assistant for a child psychologist, and another one as a research assistant for a behavioral psychologist, observing troops of monkeys at the Yerkes Primate Center, where one of my responsibilities was to watch and record monkeys copulate. Now here's a tangent that I would totally take if I was teaching a class, but I won't right now. So I tried a few different things out so that I could get some more insight into what kind of career I wanted to pursue. I took each job seriously, I worked hard, and I kept a positive attitude. Because of my work ethic and positive attitude, I was offered several different opportunities. I moved up the ranks at Outback, was offered management training, and I was also encouraged by my boss at the Primate Center to apply to be a grad student in his lab. But neither of those things were my passion. So how did I get where I am? That leads me to my third rule. When you find your passion, follow it. Well, while I was taking on all those jobs and trying to figure out what to do with my life, I spent my free time hiking. One biology course that I had taken at Emory was called Vertebrate Populations, and our labs were almost all field trips. We'd go out and look for all sorts of critters, but the ones that were the most interesting to me and the easiest to find were salamanders. I loved that class. So while I was taking on all of these jobs and trying to find my passion, I was spending my free time basically going salamander hunting, finding streams and forested areas where I could turn over cover objects and see if I could find anything cool. I would even take friends salamander hunting if they were interested. There weren't very many takers. At some point, I realized that what I was doing in my free time was super nerdy. And I thought about combining my education in psychology with my hobby, salamander hunting. I went back to talk to my vertebrate population professor to ask how I could pursue a career in salamander behavior. He directed me to some salamander biologists who had active research in that area and encouraged me to apply to grad school. Well, remember, I was a psych major, so I didn't have all the courses that I need to apply to grad school in biology. I could have easily said, oh well, that sucks. I should have been a bio major instead of a psych major. Guess I'll figure out something else to do. But I knew that I had found my passion, so I did what I needed to do to follow it. I started taking necessary courses when I could fit them in while working, and after about a year of that, I applied and got into grad school, studying salamander behavior. And grad school was great, and I worked with awesome people with similar interests, and it was the most intellectually stimulating and invigorating time of my life. I remember being so proud that I had supported myself after college, for finding my passion, and for getting into grad school. I hadn't seen my parents in a while because I was living in Atlanta and they were in Florida. So I waited until I visited with them to tell them in person. I was talking to my dad and I told him that I had been accepted to a PhD program and that I was being given tuition and a modest stipend so that I could continue to support myself while I was in grad school. I expected him to be really psyched for me. He sat there thinking for a minute, clearly processing what I had told him, and then he said, "What the F are you gonna do with a PhD in salamanders?" Only he didn't say F. And now you all know where I got my dirty mouth. So I told him that I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but that right now it felt like a great opportunity, and that I was sure it would lead me somewhere that would make me happy, and that he did not need to worry about me, it would all work out. He seemed satisfied with that answer, and I know he was worried, but he also knew me well enough to know that I would somehow make it work. Neither one of us knew that it would lead me here 24 years later giving a commencement speech at BSC. I remember this exchange with my dad so well because it was one of the last ones I ever had with him. Less than 2 days after we had this conversation, he had a massive brain aneurysm and died without warning. He was 56 years old. Terrible, horrible. But I'm so glad I got to have that conversation with him. I got to share my passion with him. And while he didn't fully understand it, he knew I had found my passion. And sharing that moment with him before he died made me all the more motivated to follow it. When you're young, like I was then, and like you are now, one event is all it takes for you to realize that the world is not what you thought it was. It's not safe. It's not comfortable. It's unpredictable, and anything can happen at any time, and you won't be prepared. You won't be able to comprehend it. You can lose someone you love, like a parent or a sibling or a friend. Or there's a deadly pandemic ravaging the world. Or you watch a video of a policeman kneeling on a black man's neck until he dies. And you can't hide from it, and everything changes. And if there's any of you out there who feel like everything's cool and nothing has really changed, well, then you're just not paying attention. So what do? Your future's ahead of you. You need to think about what impact you're going to have on the world. All I had to do was to prove that getting a PhD in salamanders wasn't a waste of time. You guys have a much greater burden. You've got to figure out how and where you will fit into this chaos. What's your role in making this broken world one that feels safe and compassionate? Maybe now you decide you want to work in epidemiology instead of pharmacy. Maybe now you want to work for a political campaign instead of being an accountant. Maybe you want to pursue human rights law instead of real estate law. Or maybe you don't change your plans at all. But you all have to look at this world differently because the world is different now, and you are an important part of it. Here's what I do know. I know because you're graduating from BSc that you have all of the tools you need to find your place in the world and to have a positive influence on it, even though everything has changed. In your time here, we've done our best to develop you all as critical thinkers, great communicators, and compassionate members of society. Use these skills. Use them as you find your passion. Stay humble, work hard, and have a positive attitude. Also, be kind, because we are all suffering. Do something that makes you proud. I know it's scary, really scary, not knowing what's coming next. But you, as the first set of graduates in this mess, are in a unique position to make the world what you want it to be. You get to decide what's coming next, and I believe in you. Thank you.
Megan, I do want to thank you for those honest and insightful comments, and I truly hope that all the graduates among us here today really take those to heart.